What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. All right, today, this is the third installment of this video series. Have these MCU Spec comics tanked? And today, we're looking at 4 key comics that were Loki spec. So, man, it's been about a half a year since we saw the Loki show come out, and we're going to see what these books have been doing on the market since. Before we get into the video, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please take some time to do so. Check out all the awesome links below as well, including to today's sponsor, popculturezone.com. Big shout out to them. Also, we are still running our 9,000 subscriber contest where I will be giving away The Boys #1 exclusive Comic Tom Gem Mint variant, as well as an Amazing Spider-Man 75, the Gleason variant. We're going to be running that for 1 more week. All you need to do is make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment below on your thoughts on the video today. And lastly, I do want to remind everyone that if you are in need of comic book supplies, check out bcwsupplies.com. If you use the code JOURNOS, you will receive 10% off of your order. You can use that code as many times as you want for as many orders as you want. It never expires, so save yourself some money there. All right, let's get into the first book, folks. Now, this is what we're going to do. As you see, Avengers 10, a really big book. When this show dropped, when we got a reveal that I'm sure all of you know about. But before we talk about the book, the first appearance of Immortus, let's just analyze what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at current CGC sale, but then we're going to be comparing that to an actual fair market value during the Loki show, which was like June to July earlier this year. And then we're going to be comparing ROI, which is basically your profit or loss in terms of return on your on investment, if the value has increased or decreased, right? But then we're going to be comparing where it's currently at to where it was at pre-Loki show. And I will explain more about that and what that means in a minute. So let's just look at this Avengers #10, first appearance of Immortus. I mean, this was already a solid Silver Age key book. Now, the interesting thing here is that I am looking at a current CGC sale of a 4.5. Now, you may say, well, why such a lower grade? We'll get to that in a minute. But let's just look at this. That current CGC 4.5 sale, $275. Fair market value during the Loki show for 4.5, $200. So it has increased by 38%. So this book has actually increased in that grade since the show aired. Now, if we look at pre-Loki show, the fair market value was sitting at $90. Now, this usually I try to take data like right before the show. So for this, it would probably be like, you know, anywhere between January and May of 2021. But there wasn't a sale prior in 2021, prior to the show in this grade. So this pre-Loki fair market value is basically between 2019 and 2020. Still gives you a good idea of where it was at. So if you sold the book today, your ROI, your return on investment, would be 206%. That's more than tripled in value. Now, why did I pick such a low grade? Because of this. All higher grades had a recent record-breaking high sales post the Loki finale. So to get just a good example of how this book was moving before the show, during the show, and after the show, the 4.5 did that justice because there wasn't a lot of sales going on right prior to the show or during the show for all those higher grades, except for more recently, post Loki show, record highs all around. So this book has been doing wonders, even though the show is past. We moved on from it. This book has not cooled off. What can you attribute that to? Well, it's already, like I said, a solid Silver Age key, and I think that definitely plays into it for sure. All right, let's get into the next book on the list, and this is Fantastic Four 353. Man, this book took off. This is the first appearance of Mobius M. Mobius. I think Owen Wilson did an amazing job with the character. I do hope to see him come back in some capacity, either on Disney Plus or in some movies here and there. All right, let's look at this, folks. Current CGC 9.8 sale, $363. Fair market value during the Loki show, $599. Now, that is a drop of 39%. And doing 3 of these videos, we did one for Falcon and Winter Soldier, we did one for WandaVision. This is one of the biggest drops that I've seen. But no, is it tanked? Has it tanked? You have to keep things in perspective and provide all context. And this is what I love doing, and I'm going to explain it to you right now. Let's look at the fair market value of a 9.8 pre-Loki show. Now, this was like right before. This was between like March and April. I think February, March, and April before the show aired. The fair market value sat around $112. So currently, not during the Loki show, but currently right now at $363. If you were to purchase this book back in March or April this year, and you sold it today for that $363, you still would have made a 224% profit. Has this book tanked? Absolutely not, because you need to have proper context. If you would have sold this book back in June or July, you would have made an even bigger profit selling it for anywhere from $500 to $600, around that $599, right? But the point stands, folks. You have to have the proper context. If you're buying into these books, it shows you that it's not that these books are tanking. That's the wrong word to describe it. But there's a right time to buy. You don't want to be late to the party and purchase these books when we get the show, we get the announcement of the character, or we get the trailer of the character, or we see the character show up, and boom, the book takes off. So you could have been ahead of the curve, and even after we knew Owen Wilson was cast, but I'm not too sure how long it was prior to the show that we knew which character he was. We'd have to go back and look at that. But again, folks, this book had a solid time to buy for you to be able to make a solid profit. And now the big question is it a good time to buy now? Well, personally for me, I'd stay away from the 9.8s. It might be a good time to buy a decent raw copy with the book cooling off. And hey, you never know if we see the character in the MCU again. It could, bring people's interests back into this. But just be careful, take heed, because it is, an early 90s book. There's definitely most likely a lot of them out there. So just be patient. And I always like to tell you guys, folks, don't sit here and just buy a book because I'm talking about it. I'm here to give you some real life data, some real sales data, some facts, sprinkled with my personal opinion on top there. Buy what you love and be smart about it. All right, we're going to move on to the next book, and that is Avengers 23. I was specking on this one before the show, and I even made a video about it. This is the first appearance of REVONA Renslayer. I don't think we've seen the last of her. Let's look at this. Current CGC 9.6 sale, $2,495. Fair market value during the Loki show. Now, here's where these numbers have to be taken into proper context. This book had no graded sales during the Loki show. Isn't that interesting? But the most recent one before that was in 2020, and it sold for $375. That ROI, 565%. Wow. Wow, folks. Now, interesting enough, the fair market value pre-Loki show right here, this was prior to 2020. So we're going back to 2018 and 2019 for me to calculate this fair market value. It was actually sitting a little higher at 426. I mean, it's not too, there was only a couple sales. So, I always say, when you look at fair market values and there's only a few on the census, a book that's in the 300 to 400s dropping $25 to $50 from one sale to the next. It's not too extreme. So again, take it all kind of with a little bit of grain of salt. But the big thing to take into consideration here is where it is selling at today. And that is a 486% increase of looking at, going back to 2019. So this book is absolutely doing crazy things. I think I bought probably like a fine copy for maybe $30 in early 2020 or late 2019, somewhere around there. But again, this is a tough one. I just, for me, I wouldn't go with the high grade of this because specifically can't afford it, wouldn't afford it, I'd go and find something that fits my budget in a raw grade, because I do think this book just has potential all around, no matter the grade. All right, folks, we have one more book to show off today, but before we do so, I just want to take less than 1 minute to show thanks to our sponsor today and to give you guys insight on what they're doing and on their website, and that's popculturezone.com. Popculturezone.com is an online shop focusing on hot new comics, including exclusive and incentive variants, CGC graded comics, and tons of other inventory, including pop culture toys and other collectibles, all at low and competitive prices. PopCultureZone.com ships all over the US, and if you are buying raw comics, they offer flat rate shipping of only $4.99. That's right, $4.99. Absolute craziness, right? And there's no taxes included, excluding New Jersey. Pop Culture Zone is also on eBay, where they hold a 100% positive feedback rating with over 8,000 completed transactions for this year alone. Make sure to check out the link to their website below, as well as their eBay link, so be sure to give them a follow there as well. All right, big thank you to PopCultureZone.com. Let's get into this last book, folks. This is Dark Reign, Young Avengers #1, first appearance of Sylvie, the second Enchantress. I think this was one of those that really had some of the most hype. Now, there was that Thor annual. I'm not even going to talk about that. I'm not even going to talk about that failed spec. But this is an interesting one, and I have something really important to say about this book. Now, as you can see, there's some NAs not available here, but let's just look at this. Current CGC 9.8 sale, $429. Fair market value during the Loki show, $549. There was only a couple. Now, that is a drop of 22%, but again, I mean, in the scheme of things, it's not it's not crazy. But look at this. Fair market value pre-Loki show. Not available. No sales data in any grade. So I can't even give you a current ROI. What does this mean, though? What does this mean that there was no book of this sold in a graded copy in any grade prior to the Loki show? And then there was only a couple during the show and currently. What does that say? To me, it says nobody cared about this book. To me, it said this maybe wasn't a dollar book, but it was a back issue book that maybe was sold for $2, $3, $4, $5. Nobody cared about it enough to get it graded. So what does that mean to me? That means that this book is now a sought after key just because of the Loki show, and it still is. It hasn't died off just because you saw a little bit of a 2% decrease. Now, another thing that you need to understand is for certain books like this, when they get hot because of MCU Spec or something like that, and they were potentially not even a looked at book prior, those first few 9.8s on the market might command a little more just because the 9.8s are scarce, because there's not that many out there. But there's not that many out there simply because nobody's cared this much. And here's the thing, folks. We are not even 6 months removed from the end of the Loki show. I bet that there are people that when they heard Sylvie, that the woman's name in the show was Sylvie, and they went and spec'd on this book and bought these books raw, I guarantee you that there are some people that sent this book to CGC back in June or July thinking that they're going to go get a 9.8 and flip it, that are still waiting on their books. I guarantee it. If any of you watching spec'd on this book during the show, bought it raw, and sent it off to CGC or even CBCS, and you still don't have it, let me know in the comments. So my concern with this, though, when you're looking at the fair market value, I think this book is gonna hover at a solid value. I think we're gonna continue to see Sylvie, and I really enjoyed her character. But my concern, especially with the 9.8, because we know how people have been demanding 9.8s, my concern is that a lot of people are going to get their books, finally get them back from CGC, and a lot of people are going to be listing them on eBay or Heritage or whatnot or whatever it may be. and there's going to be a lot at one time. And when I say a lot, I'm not saying hundreds and hundreds, but and I think that can definitely impact that 429 even more, and maybe bring that down a little. So be very, very careful and patient with this book and with all books that you guys buy. So that is my video today, folks. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Let me know if you spec'd on any of these books, bought any of these books, or if you are in the hunt for any of these books still. But I want to end on this note. Are these books tanking, folks? No, no. And there's a common theme in all these videos that I've done so far. Whenever you get spec around the MCU, there's always a new floor set, and there's ebb and flow, and ebb and flow is normal. But if you bought them before the hype, if you bought them before the show, most likely you are still sitting on an amazing profit if you decided to sell. And many of them still have potential to increase over time, especially if they're copper, bronze, or silver. So before we end the video today, folks, of course, as always, I got to give a big shout out to all of my members of the channel. First and foremost to my Patreon members. Thank you all so much for another month of support. If you guys are interested in becoming a Patreon member, it's only $3.99 a month. Big shout out to Justin, Kenwick, Jordan, X11 Bravo, Shelby, Kenneth, Rich, Tony T, Marty, Larry, Michelle, Keith, Jeremy, Michael, Tricky Clicky, Alvin, Fletch Comics, Pedro, Peter, Joe G, Larissa, Sagi, Dan, and Simon. And of course, to all of my YouTube members, you guys can click that join button below and join there for only $1.99 a month. I do give perks, early access, and I do run random prizes for members only as well. But most importantly, it does help support the channel and allow me to make content almost every single day of the week. So thank you again to all of you. I appreciate you all so, so much. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time.